right, so next question. What are your recommendations for MCAT prep, and what resources should pre-meds be sure to use? Omar, would you like to take this one?
Sure. So I recommend using a significant amount of time to study for it. It's not something that, in my experience, could be done in about 1 or 2 months prior to the exam date. It is it is a brutal test that requires a lot of stamina, and that's built up over time, in my opinion, with practice tests. So that whatever your number may be, whatever you feel ready, but it's definitely not within 1 or 2. I took 6 to study for it. I did it while I was taking classes at school, but I did a course that was on campus. So I did that for about 6 months. In terms of resources, there are a few golden standard resources, and they're kind of changing since I took the MCAT. I know that the advent of Anki in undergrad now used to be a medical school thing. Now it's bleeding into undergrad. There's all new resources, but I think the online resources that are free are usually the better ones to use. You don't need anything too fancy. But if you need some type of discipline to carry you along, a course is really great. And that's what I needed. I personally needed a course to carry me along to make sure I learned everything I needed to learn for the exam.
All right,
But yeah, I
great.
think it's overall, yeah, you just need to take care of, don't use too many, and the free ones are usually the best ones. That's usually my advice to people.
All right, Sada, did you have a similar experience or?
I did. Like I would say, like the MCAT covers a lot of the material that you learn in your undergrad pre-med courses. That being said, it's still a really tough test because it covers so many topics. It covers like you may or may not know, like psychology, biochemistry, biology, chemistry, physics. It's just a lot of topics that we learn. So like what I would recommend is doing practice questions because in med school you learn that active recall is a lot more efficient at learning than using like passive, learning, just like reading. You have to do some practice questions. You have to quiz yourself. It also helps if you study with other people. Even if you're not interacting like with each other and you're just sitting down and studying independently, I found that that was helpful too because it kept me focused instead of like, I know if I was by myself, I'd be scrolling on Instagram for at least an hour, between like every 2 hours probably. But it is an intimidating test, and like there are a lot of resources though that people can use. There are prep courses people can use. I used one personally. Not everyone uses one, but if you feel like it would benefit you, then I would say consider doing it. The prep course comes with a lot of stuff. It comes with books that go with the material that you learn. It comes with some lectures, some videos online, and practice questions. And one resource that I really liked were the AMCAS practice questions. I feel like they were pretty accurate to the real MCAT that I took, and the last practice exam that I took on AMCAS was just 1 point lower than my real MCAT score.
Oh, that's amazing. Zara, did you have a similar experience or different?
Yeah, no, I did. I definitely feel that the U World question pack for the MCAT was really great for me. That was one of the resources that I paid for. The free resources are great, but that resource was really great for me. Um, so definitely pre-meds, if you are thinking about studying for the MCAT, definitely use the U World pack that has like great questions, that has a variety of difficulty, and it actually covers it's a very comprehensive question pack with different topics and things like that. And definitely if I got a question wrong on the pack, I would go through the question, make sure I knew all of the answer choices. And through getting questions right or wrong, you're still able to learn so much. So it's not passive, just passive reading in a textbook. You're actively putting things in your mind and retaining that information. So that's why I liked the U World question pack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely for MCAT U World and also Princeton, I definitely had the best results with. So anyone looking for resources, it's where to go. All right,
I
let's
have
turn
a
it.
sort of a follow-up. Sorry,
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question to that regarding MCAT for the current medical students. How did you feel, or were you guys in an instance if you took an MCAT score, you weren't happy with it and had to take it a second time? How did you deal with that scenario?
Yeah, anyone want to take this one?
I can kind of talk about that. So I didn't take it a second time. Fortunately, I didn't have to, but I think most medical students feel like this probably coming out of the MCAT. I thought I had to take it a second time right after I took the exam. You have to wait a month before you actually see the score. But for me, it was like, I was like, oh my God, I did so badly. I bombed that thing. And I started studying again for like a week later. Um, so I mean, I recommend, I think most people will say this, try your best not to take it a second time. If you do have to take it a second time, make sure your score is significantly improved, 5-6 points at least. Because taking it a third time is, the chances then are not great at all. So so if you're taking it a second time, just make sure that, if you feel like you have to take a second after you took the first exam, I totally feel that. I thought I'd have to do that, but thankfully I didn't. So I started studying like a week later. Assess why you didn't make such a good score the first time. Obviously, what were your habits? Were you as efficient with your time? Were you taking enough practice tests? For me, also the biggest thing was just practice test. I think I ended up taking like 10 of them. And that's really the best thing you can do when it comes to studying for the MCAT is, you can't possibly know everything for the exam. It's not possible. And a lot of the information anyways on the graphs and in the passages, that's where you're getting it all from. What they want to see, what the test mostly tests is, can you process information quickly? And what can you do with that information? Can you critically think with that information that you have to process quickly? So if you are taking a second time, just make sure that you reassess completely how you studied. And along with that, make sure that that score is at least 5 or 6 points better than before. And then I think you're in pretty good shape to get into medical school.
Yeah, for sure. Going off on that, I did take it more than once. So, like Shamir said, you have to completely reassess what you did because the first time you were obviously not as successful as you wanted to be. So you have to change your strategy. You can't do the same thing again. Also, I want to say that the MCAT isn't exactly a knowledge test. You do have to learn how to take it. It's definitely a completely new process that you have to learn because timings are different. You have a bunch of questions, you have a bunch of passages that you need to consume in a very short amount of time. Practice is very, very necessary. If you have all the knowledge, that's great, but that doesn't mean you're going to score in the top percentile. It's just half of the preparation. So just definitely practice, assess your strategies, see what's working and what's not based on your practice exam scores. All right. So let's